something happening here.
Okay, so look, that was crazy, right? Assassination plots, one side going against another, but it still doesn't explain why America got into the war, right? So I'm going to kick it over to a video right now for you to watch that's going to kind of maybe explain it, but there was one single incident after all of this stuff that had been building up between North Vietnam and America and South Vietnam bubbling to the surface. It just took one spark. Kind of. It was like a spark and a false spark. But it took one incident to change whether or not America was in the war, right? So watch this video and I'll catch you on the flip, okay?
The Gulf of Tonkin incident, or the USS Maddox incident, is the event responsible for America's entry into the Vietnam War. Vietnam was divided into halves, North and South, ruled by separate regimes, but the United States were concerned that Ho Chi Minh and the Communists would win the upcoming elections and were determined to stop the spread of communism. U.S. military involvement, however, had been minimal until 1964. President Lyndon B. Johnson had been training South Vietnamese mercenaries, sending them into North Vietnam to carry out acts of sabotage and gather intel. On July 31, 1964, South Vietnamese commandos had attacked North Vietnamese targets in the Gulf of Tonkin. On August 2, 1964, American naval destroyers had moved into North Vietnam waters to gather intelligence on the enemy's naval strength. The USS Maddox was nearing the mouth of the river delta when Captain Herrick noticed that they were being followed by North Vietnamese torpedo boats and had intercepted communications of their intention to attack, so he fired 3 warning shots. The USS Maddox was then fired upon by the enemy torpedo boats. Captain Herrick retaliated and opened fire on the torpedo boats, and with the assistance of U.S. jet fighters, hit all 3 enemy targets. The enemy boats had fired their torpedoes, but they all missed. The USS Maddox then retreated back into international waters. 2 days later, a second patrol was launched into the Gulf of Tonkin by the USS Maddox and the USS Turner Joy, when Captain Herrick reported that they were again under attack. Secretary McNamara and President Johnson agreed that retaliation was needed and the expansion of the war was approved by Congress. However, Herrick sent a later message claiming that he was mistaken about the attack and that freak weather action may have led his men to overreact. The final part of the message read, "No actual visual sightings by Maddox. Suggest complete evaluation before any further action taken." Nevertheless, this was ignored by Johnson and his advisors, who continued on with the retaliation plan. On August 5th, Johnson made a public speech stating, "The determination of all Americans to carry out our full commitment to the people and to the government of South Vietnam will be redoubled by this outrage." Shortly after his speech, U.S. aircraft bombed North Vietnamese targets, torpedo boat bases, and an oil storage depot. America was now drawn into the Vietnam War. President Johnson made a speech via the media to the American people to get their support for the war and described the attack on 2 U.S. Navy warships as a deliberate aggression. By late 1965, 200,000 American troops were on the ground, with more on the way.
Okay, so this is the crazy part for me, right? It wasn't the fact that the first incident happened, right? Because that happens sometimes in war, right? If you pay attention to conflict in between countries, stuff like that actually happens a little bit more than I think I would like. Just for example, just this week when I'm filming this video, North Korea and South Korea exchanged fire on each other, and they've been at war for like almost like 70 years right now. But what's important to really think about is the second incident didn't even happen, right? There wasn't a second attack on the boat. But just the idea of it was enough for the American politicians to sell the war, which to me tells me that ultimately they wanted to go to war and they were just waiting for that incident to kick it off so that they had justification for it. And you know what? America's gonna pay for it, right? Vietnam is one of our first true public failures as a military fighting force, right? But after the Gulf of Tonkin, that's when we get into the thick of it. So the next video is gonna be about that. For now, just answer the questions in the article below, okay? Cool.